guys?
How you doing? Good. Communication. Well, Davis has a flat tire, so he couldn't get
Really?
it. Yeah, so got the bench hit for it.
That's what they're saying anyhow.
Communication has been a buzzword all week. What have you guys done to improve communication this week?
Well, it's a buzzword every minute of every day. It's such an important part of playing this game at a high level, so that's something we really try to instill in our team, constantly from day one. And there's so many different levels of it, communicating in the huddle, at the line of scrimmage, making adjustments between series, all of that. So it's a huge part of what we try to do, and typically we play our best football. We've done a good job communicating, getting everybody on the same page. So again, we've talked about it all week long. That's one of the things that gets challenged when you go on the road. It challenges your ability to communicate. So we have to do a great job of that. We use crowd noise. We've always used crowd noise. We've used crowd noise from the first day of OTAs. That's just part of what we do. Again, trying to make an emphasis on this because we recognize how important it is. So we just simply have to do a better job of it.
Is it the crowd noise part of it, or is it just time on task with a lot of new people?
Yeah, maybe a combination of all those things. But I do know that we have to do a better job. And in each of the games we've played on the road, we've done a good job at times. And typically that's been a result of everybody being together on it. And the plays on offense, defense, and the kicking game that haven't been up to snuff oftentimes could be traced back to not being all together. And we just have to make sure we do that. It's a challenge that every team has every time the ball is snapped in the National Football League. And making sure 11 guys are playing together. And we'll continue to emphasize that with our football team.
Was there a Jalen is back moment for you, or has there been one?
Oh, I don't think a moment. One of the most impressive things about him is I think there's been a real steady progression right from the start. And, each and every day you went out there, every time you talked to him or you talked to the trainers, how's he doing? Oh, he's making progress, better than he was yesterday. So a real tribute to him, the approach he's taken. And that goes all the way back to his early rehab. And then I think there's just been a progression as he's come back. It was a great moment for all of us to see him playing in a game last year. I thought that was big. And then there were some great moments for him last year, and other times maybe not playing quite to the level that he wants to play and we want him to play. But we all understand that's part of the process. And then certainly better this offseason when he took that brace off, and I just think he continues to improve day by day and week by week.
The play at the goal line against the Texans, is that one of those plays that can be kind of a signature play for him?
Which one? Yeah, honestly, he made so many plays in that game, and he makes so many big hits and is around the ball so much. So he certainly showed up big in those goal line stands that we had in that game, but he's done a lot of really good things during the early part of the season.
Do you take him if Dr. Cooper doesn't do that surgery?
Oh, that's a hypothetical. There's a lot of information that we had to process together and challenge each other on, and the fact that Dr. Cooper is such a trusted guy and his word meant so much to us on the medical side of it. I thought that was a big factor in it. But we heard so many great things about him as a guy, and anybody who has any chance of coming back from an injury like he had, it really started there. The kind of person he is, and at every level, every person we spoke to just spoke the world of him, the character of the guy, and I think that's shown through here the last couple of years.
How did Sean get through what he was able to do?
Sean did well. He's made a good progression. He started last week out on the practice field in a more limited fashion, and I was able to handle the work well yesterday.
How will you handle his sort of pitch count or snap load when he's ready to go full bore?
Yeah, we just got to see how he does here the next couple days, and hopefully he'll be ready for the game. And we just have to be mindful of the number of snaps he does get. We've been mindful of that in the past, and I do think we're better equipped to take him out of the ball game and let the other guys play. Jalen has played well, Leighton's played well, the other linebackers have played well in his absence this year. So Sean's a great player, and we want to get him out there as much as we can, but we do have to be mindful of that.
Is he receptive to it, or does he
Absolutely.
take
Well, he wants to play every snap. He wants to play in every situation, but I think he understands it.
How's Cheeto doing? Is he progressing?
Yeah, progressing. He had a good day yesterday.
How did Brown grade out in a game like that?
He did well. Played very well. He's a good player. He's played well for us whenever we've given him opportunities. Mostly he's been playing the nickel spot for us this year, and as you know, the nickel plays a lot of snaps in the game. 65, 70% of the snaps, you're in nickel defense, and he's played well there. And when he had the opportunity to go back outside, he handled the work well.
We've talked a lot about Dak's running ability. How much is that predicated basically on what the defense is doing?
You're talking about on the zone read type things? Yeah, typically it's a decision that he has to make. Reading a guy, and if they collapse inside to defend the inside run, typically he has an opportunity to keep it. He did run, I think, 11 times in the game the other day, and many of those runs were on scrambles or a naked that continued to run or a movement in the pocket. I think it was just 4 or 5 of the zone read type plays. So it's been pretty consistent with what we've done really since he's been our quarterback, and sometimes he has more opportunities. He certainly took advantage of them the other day.
You guys used a pretty significant rotation on the defensive line last game. Do you anticipate kind of the same thing this week?
Yeah, we like that. We like to have 8 guys up, and we like to play all those guys, keep them fresh, keep them coming, and each of those guys has earned an opportunity to play in the ball game. And again, the other day, each of them were productive in their role, and I think that warrants an opportunity to keep them going. Certainly there's some guys who want to get out there maybe more than others. We didn't have a lot of snaps in the game. We created a lot of 3 and outs, and then we kept the ball a lot on offense. We had it for almost 40 minutes. So I think that was helpful too, and kept all those guys fresh, and they played well.
How does David practice this week? And he's here today, I'm assuming.
Yes, he is.
He said in the game that his legs kind of got to him as the game went on. Do you see him getting stronger with that conditioning and stuff like
Yeah,
that?
just a matter of continuing to practice and play and put yourself in those situations. And he's certainly very willing. He plays hard. He practices hard. He just needs more time on task to continue to lay that foundation.
Watching Dak a few times, he took some pretty big hits occasionally. Did you teach him how to, is there anything a coach can teach him about the importance of ducking those things, or is that sort of a learn by doing? He's going to have to go through it.
I think he does a pretty good job of that. He maximizes the run, and then he does a good job sliding or diving. A couple times his rookie year, he was running left, and he stiff-armed a guy in the face mask with his right hand. We kind of cautioned him against doing that. And certainly you want to be mindful of getting when you can and getting out of bounds or sliding. And I think for the most part he's done a good job of that. He's a tough guy. He's a competitive guy. He's always fighting for yards. He's run the ball a lot in his career. So you always have that balancing act, but I think he's done a pretty good job.
Y'all have seen Josh Norman a decent amount through his career. What challenge does he pose to an offense?
He's just a great player. He's been a great player for a long time. He's a really good cover guy. He's very active in the game in so many different ways, not only in coverage but as a run defender. He's very good at the ball, intercepting the ball or knocking the ball out. He's just a damn good player and makes a big impact on their defense.
Any word from Tavon in that second opinion he was seeking?
Not yet.
You have such a young team. Are they aware of any part of the history of this rivalry?
You'll have to ask them. Some guys are
Bring it up at all to them? Or?
not really.
Yeah.
Some guys are football junkies and they know this stuff inside and out, and some guys are kind of live in the moment guys, and that probably varies. So I bet if you ask different guys, you'll get different answers. It certainly is a storied rivalry. There's no question about that.
What are your thoughts on Adrian Peterson doing what he's doing this late in his career?
He's a great player. He's been a great player for a long time, and I think every one of us, the first time we laid our eyes on him years ago at Oklahoma, it was like, wow, this guy's something else, and he's been that way really throughout his career. He's had to deal with some injuries, come back really quickly from some serious injuries and continue to play at a very high level. And he looks like the same guy to me. He's running hard, he's tough, he's physical, he's competitive, and he's hard to bring down. He's a great player and has been for a long time.
Are there similarities in how he finishes runs and how Zeke finishes runs?
Well, I think there's no question the competitive spirit of each of the guys is probably line one when you talk about them. And, they have a little bit of a different running style, so I don't know if you can compare it that way. But I know the will that they have, I know the spirit that they play with, and it challenges the heck out of the defense.
Are they that much different with the new quarterback than they were under Kirk?
I do think they're probably a little bit different. You see a lot of the same kinds of things in their scheme, both running the ball and throwing the ball. I do think there's an emphasis on running the football and getting some of the things off of the running game that Alex Smith is so good at, the movement plays, the play action stuff. Oftentimes you're trying to create a particular environment in a game, and sometimes you're able to execute that. So they're at their best when they're running the ball and controlling the line of scrimmage. And Alex, is doing his thing, both from the pocket and out on the move. He's been a really good player for a long time.
Does Jordan Reed look like he's back to?
Yes.
In what ways? How do you see it?
He's just hard to guard. He's quick, he's fast, he's explosive. He's got a great feel for playing. The quarterbacks love throwing to him. He wins in man, he wins in zone, he wins against double coverage, and he's really good with the ball after he catches it. So he's a damn good player.
What stands out most to you about Alex Smith?
I got to know Alex years ago when I was coaching in Miami. He was the first player taken by San Francisco in the 05 draft, and we had the second pick. So I spent a lot of time with him during that draft process. And I think the thing that was so striking to me at that time is his history. He never lost a game in high school. I don't think he lost in college. In the NFL, he had a couple rough years there when they were rebuilding in San Francisco, but he's been part of winning teams throughout his whole life. So that's what stands out. He does the things at the quarterback position that helps his team win. And that's with his arm, that's with his feet, that's with his mind. He's a great decision maker. He's a competitive guy, and it's contagious throughout the teams he plays on.
This defensive line was pretty dominant against Alex Smith last year. What do you want to see from them this week?
Just to continue to show up like we have, be disruptive in the running game. That's where it starts. I think our guys take great pride in being a part of that. They're not just pass rushers. Each of those guys understands their role and responsibility, so it starts there. It's critical for us to do a great job against the run this week, and then certainly affect the quarterback and do a good job collapsing the pocket, keeping him in the pocket, have great rush discipline, and then go make the plays that make a difference. Sack him, knock the ball out, do those kinds of things.
On a similar note, Jeff Heath, I think, ruined whatever his streak was last year, passes without an interception. What did he show in that plan? What has he shown this year in the last couple games?
Jeff is one of those guys who just continues to show up. He's a great leader back there for us, but he's also a very productive player. Shows up in the run. Like you said, made the big interception the other day with a great return. And he seems to make those kind of impact plays whenever we give him an opportunity. And early on, he was kind of a rotational player in his career, and every time he went in there, he was doing something that was positive, and he certainly carried that over as he's established himself as a starter on our defense.
You mentioned the rivalry between these two franchises. Do you think that matters anymore to this current generation of players? It's just been one of the things that's been lost, or do you think, for the most part, players still very much enjoy that part of the game, the league?
Yeah, I think it's probably, if you ask individual players from any generation, sometimes those things matter more to most and maybe less to some others. And it's just the mindset and the mentality of the guys. There are some guys in our team who love football and love the history of football, and they're all into it, and other guys could probably care less about who we're playing. And there's a little bit of a mentality that you want to establish on your team, that it doesn't matter who we play, where we play, when we play. It's about us playing at our highest level. So you want to instill that in guys. But I think that's probably the same thing if you go back generations in football.
Thank you.
All right. Good to see you guys.
Jason.